The deal they never saw coming. Camille Dorsey walked into the lobby of Stratwell and Keene Global like she'd walked into dozens of other corporate buildings in her career quietly, professionally, and completely prepared. Her navy blue suit was tailored to precision. Her heels made a confident but controlled click across the imported marble flooring, and the portfolio in her hand contained the keys to a $300 million federal infrastructure initiative that had the potential to transform cities and elevate economies. But before she could even speak, she was reduced to nothing more than an interruption. Security? The receptionist said, voice-coded in passive superiority. There's someone here in the investor lobby. She's not on the list. Camille heard it all from just a few feet away. She hadn't said a word yet. No one had asked her name. No one had checked the appointment list. They simply looked at her, an elegant black woman, standing alone with a leather-bound portfolio, and assumed she didn't belong. No one knew that she wasn't just a guest. She was the architect of the federal initiative they'd been trying to gain access to for 6 months. And yet, here she stood, dismissed as though she were in the wrong building. Camille gave a soft, practiced smile and spoke calmly. I'm here for my 10 a.m. appointment with Mr. Raymond DeWitt. The receptionist, a woman named Alana with meticulously manicured nails and a sour expression, looked up like she'd just been accused of something offensive. With Mr. DeWitt, she repeated. Are you sure? Camille nodded once. Yes. Camille Dorsey, Strategic Development Liaison for the Green Crescent Program. Alana's eyes flickered. Her mouth opened slightly before closing again. She tapped at her keyboard, pretending to search through the appointment schedule, even though Camille had watched her ignore the screen for the last 3 minutes. Then came a tight smile and a dismissive wave toward a side lounge. You can have a seat over there. Someone will be down shortly. Camille walked toward the lounge, her posture never changing. She had seen this performance before. She had lived it, breathed it, endured it, but she never let it define her. Whispers followed her. 2 junior analysts nearby murmured something about unscheduled visitors, and one of them even laughed. She heard it, stored it, but gave no reaction. They hadn't even looked at her credentials. Hadn't even seen the Department of Transportation clearance clipped to the inside of her blazer. Camille sat and opened her portfolio. She didn't check her phone. She didn't glance around. Every page inside had been prepared down to the common legislation references, infrastructure modeling, forecasted job growth, environmental impact analysis, and most importantly, the grant approval letter signed by the Federal Oversight Committee. But all they could see was a woman who didn't belong. 26 minutes passed before Raymond DeWitt finally arrived. He was the Senior VP of Government Partnerships, and the moment his eyes landed on Camille, everything about him changed. Ms. Dorsey, he exclaimed, rushing over with his hand extended. My sincerest apologies. I had no idea you were already here. Alana's face drained of color. Camille stood, shook Raymond's hand, and smiled without a hint of resentment. No trouble at all, she said. I'm used to being overlooked. Raymond motioned for her to follow him. As they walked toward the elevators, the energy in the lobby shifted. People stared. Alana shrank behind her desk. Upstairs, Camille was led into a side conference room. It was functional but dated. The furniture was older, the screen small, the lighting dim. She recognized the tact to sit was a polite version of marginalization. She said nothing. Minutes ticked by. She sipped water, refined her opening talking points in her head, and waited. When the boardroom finally opened and the real meeting began, Camille walked in like the room belonged to her. Raymond introduced her. Everyone, this is Ms. Camille Dorsey, liaison for the Department of Transportation and principal architect behind the Green Crescent Project. There was a beat of silence. The same executives who hadn't given her a second look downstairs suddenly blinked like they'd been hit by a gust of unexpected wind. No one stood. 1 or 2 offered tight nods. A few just stared. Camille launched into her presentation. Slide by slide, she built a case. Climate-responsive transit design. 40,000 projected jobs. Economically resilient urban frameworks. Partnerships with 6 federal agencies already in place. Funding pre-approved. Land mapping already underway. Local compliance verified. Every fact was delivered with precision. Every figure cross-checked. She wasn't there to ask for anything. She was offering opportunity at scale with guarantees. But as she spoke, she could feel it. The restraint. The resistance. Not because of what she was presenting, but because of who she was. They couldn't process the fact that the biggest federal contract of the year was being delivered by someone they hadn't anticipated. "I'm offering Stratwell and Keene a lead partnership," Camille said, concluding her presentation. "This isn't a pitch. It's an invitation." Gerald Lindstrom, the CFO, raised a brow. "It's very ambitious," he said. Camille smiled faintly. "Ambition isn't a risk when you've already done the work." He leaned back in his chair. "And what happens when the administration changes? When the political climate shifts? This program might not survive beyond this term." Camille replied coolly, "That's a conversation we had 2 years ago in Washington. That's why the initiative is tied to bipartisan economic impact legislation. This isn't a policy trend. It's federal infrastructure law." There was silence. Raymond looked uneasy. The others glanced at each other. Then the coordinator leaned over and whispered something to him. "I'm sorry," Raymond said with a forced smile, "but we'll have to wrap up. We've got another team scheduled in this room." Camille looked at the wall clock. It read 11:22 a.m. Her meeting was supposed to run until 11:30. She closed her laptop and gathered her portfolio without a word. As she stood, she turned to Gerald. "I understand your caution. I just hope your risk models are robust enough to account for missed opportunity." With that, she walked out. By the time she reached the sidewalk, she'd already typed up a memo and scheduled a follow-up meeting with 3 competing firms that had welcomed her expertise months ago, but whose turn had been deferred in favor of Stratwell's prestigious name. At 12:06 p.m., she received the rejection email. "Thank you for your time. After internal review, we've chosen not to proceed." She forwarded it to her government team with a single line, "Confirmed. Proceed with alternate selection." The next morning, Camille returned to Stratwell and Keene. But this time, she didn't walk through the front door as a presenter. She arrived as the appointed federal compliance auditor assigned to assess the firm's previous submissions to the Department of Transportation. The same lobby, the same receptionist, but now a different Camille. She didn't speak when Alana stammered a confused greeting. She simply showed her credentials and walked straight past the desk. The executive boardroom wasn't prepared for her return. They expected a pitch. They received an audit. Within 2 weeks, the Green Crescent lead partnership had been awarded to a rival firm. Stratwell and Keene lost not only the deal, but their pending application for an unrelated $40 million logistics expansion contract due to the compliance violations uncovered during Camille's assessment. Raymond DeWitt resigned. Gerald Lindstrom's name disappeared from the company's leadership tab. And Camille? She went on to coordinate 5 other multi-agency infrastructure rollouts, each one larger than the last. Her name began appearing in Forbes features and policy journals. Invitations flooded in from panels, universities, international planning committees. She accepted none of them. Because her purpose wasn't the spotlight, was progress. She never once spoke publicly about what happened at Stratwell. Never posted, never tweeted, never named names. She didn't need to. The results spoke for themselves. A company that had judged her as unfit to sit at the table was now no longer allowed in the room. And that, Camille believed, was the true cost of arrogance. Not a scandal, not a headline, but irrelevance. And irrelevance, once earned, was rarely reversed.